In our video number 12, we are going to discuss the next topic, organization of data. So far we learned how the data is collected through primary and secondary sources. And we also learned about the largest collection of data, the census. The data so collected through these sources, or let us say through census, is so large that without organization of the data, it would be very difficult to analyze and interpret. And census is collected only to bring about policies in order for the growth of the economy. So what is organization of data? It's something like the raw data. The raw data is that data which is collected directly from the respondents. This raw data is something like the items collected by the kabadi wala. You must have seen his shop in which those items are all lying here and there. But what does he do in order to get out of that chaos and make his trade more suitable? He would segregate them. The newspapers on one side, bottles, glass on one side, metal on the other side, so that it becomes very easy for him to locate those items as well as deal or trade with those items. So let's now see what is organization of data or classification of data. It is a process of arranging data into sequences and groups according to their common characteristics, or separating them into different but related groups or parts. That is, homogeneous items from heterogeneous elements. What the kabadiwala had collected is the heterogeneous elements, a combination of all types of elements. Now he segregates them into homogeneous items, that is newspapers on one side, metal on one side, glass on one side, and this same thing we can see at our homes also. When you bring in provisions, then your mom arranges them accordingly. Or the setup of a household. We have a shoe rack to keep the shoes, we have a wardrobe to keep our clothes, and a place to keep our books, etc. So this is organization. Why do we do this? Is because it simplifies the work and we know where to find what. So it's a process of arranging the data into a sequence or a group. How do we group them? According to their common characteristics. And we also separate them into related groups or parts that are homogeneous in nature. So the purpose of organization of data is to arrange this raw data, the raw data that is classified and organized, and also is presented in a suitable form which makes easy for analysis and further interpretation. So this organization of data helps us to condense the raw data into a suitable form that can be used easily. It removes complexities, that means it simplifies and highlights its features. It also facilitates comparison and draw inferences. Comparison, let us say like 11A class and 11B class, there was one test conducted. So which class had done better? So it helps us in comparison. And why had one of the sections not performed well is how we draw an inference. Okay, why this class couldn't do well? Maybe it needs a worksheet more, something like that. It brings out points of similarity and dissimilarity. So that is the purpose of organizing the data. Next, a good classification or organization should have some features. The first one being suitability, that it should conform to the object of inquiry. Let us say the object of inquiry is that I need a group of students who are good in karate. Now I cannot include a person who is good at dance in that group because he would land up hurting himself or herself. So the suitability should be kept in mind. Next is unambiguous. It should not confuse, and the item should be placed in a group very easily. Then exhaustiveness. Every unit should find a place. There should be no unit left behind. Then flexibility. An item should be capable of being adjusted according to the changes. So if you bring about any change in the object of inquiry or statistical inquiry, then we should be able to place that particular item in a group. That flexibility should be available. Next is mutually exclusive. This means that an observed value should belong to one and only one class. Here we can take the example of blood groups. Let us say the blood groups are A, B and O. So we know that the observed value either should belong to A or B or AB or A or O. So it belongs to only one of the given classes. Then stability. Once decided, it should remain same throughout the analysis. Then homogeneity. Homogeneity means all units belonging to a group should exhibit similar characteristics. This you must have learnt in your lower classes, but all flowering plants are one group, non-flowering plants are one group. Or in your chemistry you must have learned that one group element should, all of them exhibit the same properties and characteristics. So that is homogeneity. Let us now learn about some of the bases of classification. The first one being geographical classification. As the name tells us, geographical classification is according to the geographical location or region. For example, the agricultural yield of countries in kg per hectares. So India has an agricultural yield 126.7 kgs per hectare. Whereas in China it is 269.2 kg per hectare, and Pakistan it is 257.5 kg per hectare. So this is a geographical classification based upon the area or place. The other one is a population in states of India. So these are also geographical classification. The next one is chronological classification. That is with respect to different periods of time. Now if you talk of population in the country, in India, in crore numbers, 1971 the population was 54.4 crores. And in 1981 it grew to 68.3 crores. And the same population of India in 1991 was seen to be 84.4 crores. So this is based on different time periods. The population of India every 10 years. And the third method of classification is the qualitative classification. Qualitative according to qualities or attributes. That is according to the quality. This qualitative classification can be simple or manifold. Simple, as the name tells us, suppose there is a class, a very simple way of classifying them is, classifying the class is boys and girls, the number of boys in a class and the number of girls in a class. So there ends the classification. Whereas in a manifold classification, we can take the example of population of any country, a population of India. So the population consists of some number of males and some number of females. And in males you may have some literate and illiterate. Similarly in females you may have literate and illiterate females. Then you may also have males living in the rural region and in the urban region. Similarly females living in the rural and the urban regions. So you can also say literate people in the rural and urban regions. Similarly, illiterate people in the rural and urban regions. Here also people living in the illiterate people living in the rural and the urban regions. So that is how you can go, and further you can classify them if you have any other way of classifying the population. Then we learn the quantitative method of classification. In statistics, numbers play a very important role. The quantitative classification is those that can be measured. That is height in centimeters or meters, then weight in kgs or grams, then income, and then expenditure, and so on and so forth. So these variables can be measured, hence the quantitative method of classification. We have one example over here in which we have the number of students and the age groups. So the age in years is given, let us call it X, and number of students, let us call it F. Now in the age group of 10 to 12 years, we have 150 students, and that in 12 to 14 we have 130 students, and 14 to 16 age group we have, let us say, 100 students. Now this quantity that is changing every time is called a variable. A variable is that quantity whose attribute or value keeps changing. This change or this variable can be a discrete variable or a continuous variable. What do we understand by a discrete variable? Discrete variable is that which is an exact value and not a fractional value. So I can say that in my class there are 35 students. I cannot say there are 35.5 students. And number of workers, I can say that at a particular site the number of workers is 150. But I cannot say 150.345, isn't it? So discrete variables are exact values. They are not fractional values. They are not decimals. They are whole numbers. Now the other one is continuous variable. Continuous variables are those variables which take all the possible values, integral as well as fractional. So here we can take those values, heights. So there could be a person who measures 150 centimeters, the other person may measure 150.1 centimeter or 150.2 centimeters. Similarly, weights. There could be 1 kg, 1.5 kg, 1 kg and 250 grams. So weights also we can have fractional values. Similarly, minimum and maximum temperature. Minimum temperature you can say 24.5 degrees Celsius, or maximum temperature let us say 36.8 degrees Celsius. So those decimals are possible in continuous variables. So continuity means from let us say 1 to 2, it can take all values of 1, 1.1, 1.2 etc. or 1.001, 1.002 up till 2. So those are continuous variables. They can be represented in class intervals, like say 10 to 12, like we had here in age 10 to 12. So all the values between 10 to 12 can be taken in continuous variables. Whereas discrete variables will be from 10 to 12 if you talk, then they will be 10, 11 and 12 only. Then those variables which occur a number of times is called a frequency. That is why we called it F here. So in the age group of 10 to 12, we have 150 students. So how many times is this age occurring? It is occurring 150 times. Similarly, the age group of 12 to 14 is occurring 130 times. And this is occurring 100 times. So how many times it occurs is called the frequency. And a frequency distribution is a table that shows variable and frequency. So you can call this a frequency distribution table in which you have the variable and the frequency.